I want to show you how to mix MIDI bass into a professional world-class metal record. The MIDI bass in question is going to be Submission Audio's brand new OmniBass, while the metal record is going to be Sylosis' new A Sign of Things to Come, more specifically one of the singles called Poison for the Lost, so a massive thank you to Josh for letting us use his music. Lastly, before we get into it, I've secured a special 20% off code off OmniBase if you end up enjoying what you hear in this video. You can find the description down below for a limited time only. Let's get it. Okay, this is a song without bass. This is a song with fully mixed MIDI bass. So as you can hear, the bass fills in that very necessary gap between the kick and the rhythm guitars. So how do we turn the raw virtual instruments into that? Well, let's go over it. So this is how OmniBass loads up. We'll be using the DI tone for this because it's going to be the more difficult way to do things, but in my opinion also the more satisfying way, because we'll be putting it out into the DAW and then processing the tone externally as we would with any other bass guitar. However, if you were to be lazy, you can just cycle through the tones like this. A lot of pre-packaged, very easy, ready-to-go tones in there that you only need to do a bit of minor EQ to and it's ready. However, as I said, we're going to go about it the more satisfying way here today. One thing I would ask you to keep an eye on, if we go to this section of the song, listen to the performance. Now listen to how much it changes. All right, back. So one of the major controls that we give you access to is the ability to control where on the fretboard the performance is done. If you want to get really granular with this, you can actually use the 4-string key switches, which we have explained in our more intense programming videos, to basically one-to-one match your guitar riffs, position for position, to get the timbre exactly right. In this case, I'm going to keep the position at 1. What this means is that it's just going to be rejecting the open strings. So everything will be done fretted to avoid that really kind of pingy sound that really jumps out of the mix too much. Beyond that, I'm going to set the humanize on the border of human and bassist. So what we want to do from here, if we're going to process this externally, and this is very important, you want to run this out to a track, as it is here in Cubase, and then you want to actually export it, right? So you want to select the instrument channel, and you want to set it to export, and then re-import back into your session. Now, it's going to depend on your DAW how this is done. Once you do this, it's going to come in on a track, as you can see down here, bass, OmniBass. Now, what you're going to do is actually duplicate that track. So what you see here is these two tracks, completely identical, right? So that's been duplicated. One of them is going to be named bass low, and one of them is going to be named bass high. This is going to create the basis of how we're going to go about processing this thing. So these two tracks, you're going to run into a group track, simply called bass or bass group or whatever you want to call it from there. So in the bass low section, you're going to hear just the DI. So what we're going to do here is super simple. We're going to instantiate a low pass filter, linear phase at about 205 Hertz. This can depend to your personal taste, but I'm going to set it to 205. This is roughly what it's going to sound like. So you're just left with the low end information, okay? Now on the high track, we're going to instantiate whatever your favorite distortion plugin is for bass. In this one, we'll use Old Faithful, the Dark Glass Ultra. It's super easy to use. We're going to set the grunt in the middle because we just want to grit up the highs a little bit. I believe these are all pretty much as we want them. We're just going to dial this very quickly, and yeah, I'm going to get a tone that's kind of in the ballpark, and I'll show you how we reconstitute this and blend it with the low track that we just created. So here we go. Don't even need to go to the cab section and change anything. It already sounds absolutely amazing. So it's one thing I love about this. It's such a great sounding instrument, the Ernie Ball bongo, and it's been played by an absolute virtuoso maniac. So you know it's all sorted from the source. Okay, great. So we have this. Now we're going to make it really wimpy by instantiating a high-pass filter at 236 hertz, give or take, linear phase once again. So it's going to sound like this. Right? So you may notice that we've rejected all the things that we low-passed and created on the low track. So if we combine the two together, we get... All right. Super easy. That is the basis of our mixed sound. Now you can use parallax or whatever kind of amp sim that you want. You can run it out to pedals, a real bass amp if you want. The sky's the limit. It's one of the great things about MIDI bass is you can do the same things to it as you would with a real bass guitar. And the more analog you throw at it, the more realistic it sounds. So great. Now on the group track, I'm going to use one of our other plugins, Double Tap, which is going to make the compression portion of this a one-stop shop, super easy. Listen to this. You can hear double bass is already helping it because we can tailor the lows in contrast to the highs. Now for the magic, grunt. One of my favorite forms of saturation for bass. So here is the EQ that we've put in right after double tap. Now I get to do something I've been wanting to do since the very beginning, which is filter the sub-lows. Here we go. Ah, oh, thank God. Now the super highs, round out the tone a bit. Very nice. Now we're going to take out some of that fullness, right? This is very common with basses. That area somewhere about 230 to 300 hertz. See how much cleaner that is? We're just getting rid of the ring and the mud. So the second frequency range is between about 160 and 170 or 180 hertz usually. This is just just kind of a ringing, kind of annoying overtone that removes the clarity of bass, especially in really busy music like this. So we have to be very judicious with our use of low end. Now also, the lows... This cut here at 76 hertz is what allows the bass drum to poke through a little bit more. So we're getting a lot more of that tighter kind of thrash metal, pingy type sound. Now the last thing for us to take care of is just some of the high MIDI stuff. Now that's one way you could do it. Another way you can do it, and one of the great things about doing this all digitally is that you can simply go into the Dark Glass Ultra and then just reduce the high mid knob, which is centered at 3 kilohertz, which roughly has the same effect as doing that on Pro Q after the fact. So you can kind of balance the two out against each other because you're not committed to the reamp, or you're kind of doing the reamp in real time. So that is that, and I'm going to show you one more trick before we demo this all in the song again. So what are you looking at here? This is a multi-band compressor, right? And we have a band set up 132 hertz and below to be ducked on the bass. However, it's not the bass signal that's triggering it. It's the drum signal, or the kick in particular, right? So I've set it up so only frequencies beneath 46 hertz trigger it from the drum stem. See what's happening? Wide pass. On. So it's set up perfectly to just duck the low end of the bass whenever the kick hits. This allows the kick to be super punchy while still retaining a lot of that sub information in the bass guitar. So the way that you set this up in Pro MB is simply set up the band here and then just click on the band and you get all of these controls. Make sure to open the expert panel, set it to free, and then set it to external. External allows the sidechain to trigger the detector circuit, and free allows you to select what frequency range in that sidechain signal actually triggers it, which in this case is the kick. So external means drums in my case, and free means kick. So I'm subdividing it twice, and then the net effect is this. Well, I sincerely hope you enjoyed that. Remember, we have a time-limited 20% off code off Omnibase in the description down below. If you want more mixing tips, you can also find my now infamous Systematic Mixing Guide ebook, also linked down below. And of course, you are more than welcome to join us as a subscriber for all the future educational content on this channel. So until then, I'll see you later.